How's it going, you guys? So in this video, I'm going to be answering a question from my subscriber, Vince by Meyer. Okay. Sorry if I butchered your name, sir. So Vince asked me, I was reading about probiotics and gut health. What's your experience with them? Do they lower anxiety? Do they help you lose weight? Is it something everyone should include in their diet, especially if they're not healthy? Thank you. So, make sure if you have a question that you ask me down in the comments, or you send me a private message on my Instagram, at CoachWolfgangVL, and I'll be happy to make a video about a topic that I find interesting or compelled to respond to, but I'll try to always respond to every comment I get. So, for those of you who've been following me for a while, you probably already know what my overall approach to probiotics are, but I'm sure a lot of y'all probably forgot. So it's a great question, and it's a great question because it's very important that people know the truth behind probiotics and understand the truth behind the pseudoscience of the gut microbiome. Okay, we're getting ready to get deep and crazy here. So check this out. Let's see. So do they lower anxiety? Do they help you lose weight? Okay, so I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, probiotics do not help you lose weight at all. Okay, there's no mechanism in which they can do such a thing besides maybe appetite, but there's absolutely no way in hell taking a probiotic supplement is going to help you lose weight. There are many claims that companies will use, or that health experts or scientists or these people are fascinated with polyphenols and crap like that tell you to eat the rainbow and the cornucopia of phytonutrients. People like Mark Hyman that tell you shit like that because they have ties to certain supplement companies and whatnot that will sell you these probiotic supplements and polyphenol formulations and crap like that. Generally, there's no causal link between the gut microbiome and health outcomes. There's only correlation. But these people will say all this crap, but they don't have any actual intervention trials to back what they say. So let me break it down again. Let me go even deeper here. So essentially, this is how gut bacteria works. When I eat broccoli, that broccoli is not digested by stomach acid. Plant foods and carbohydrate molecules in general are not broken down by stomach acid. Okay, only animal foods are. And the exception is things like lactose, and I think to a certain degree, certain amino acids and collagen can actually be fermented in the intestine. But basically, most plant foods, especially fibrous plant foods and carbohydrates in general, but plant foods in general, they are digested by bacteria in your intestine. So when I eat broccoli, that broccoli creates broccoli-eating bacteria in my intestine. Okay? And the bacteria that digest that broccoli only exists in order to ferment broccoli or digest broccoli for you, because human beings do not contain the cellulase enzyme to break down cellulose, and we're not able to actually digest these plant foods by ourselves. We need to ferment them in the intestine by bacteria. And of course, our ability to ferment plants as energy is like 5% that of a herbivorous animal. Like, we have a very low capacity for fermentation. That's why when you eat a shit ton of broccoli and beans and stuff, you're farting all the time. When you fart, that is gut bacteria breaking down the certain food you're eating. So eating broccoli feeds broccoli-eating bacteria. Eating pinto beans creates pinto bean-eating bacteria. Okay, eating black beans creates a certain type of bacteria. And that's the basics of how food creates bacteria in your intestine. Keep in mind that gut bacteria is extremely dynamic, And as far as I'm aware, there's so many strains of bacteria in the intestine that can change with so many different factors in your environment. Everything from when you touch soil or you walk outside of your house, your gut bacteria changes. Your gut bacteria is always changing on a moment-to-moment basis in relationship to the environment in which it's in, the foods you're eating, the emotions you're having. Gut bacteria is not something that's causing a lot of these health outcomes or causing anxiety and this and that, but your anxiety is actually changing gut bacteria. Your health status is changing gut bacteria. Anyway, back to food. This is very important you understand this. When you eat, whatever diet you're eating is going to change your gut bacteria. And the food that you're eating also creates the health outcomes that you experience. If you eat a lot of refined carbohydrates, refined sugar, and refined foods, you're going to be feeding bacteria in your intestine that feeds on those foods. And then obviously we know junk foods are one of the main drivers of heart disease, obesity, and diabetes, okay? When you eat these foods, they spike your insulin, they create reactive oxygen species as a byproduct of their metabolism. So just eating those foods in general, those foods, what they turn into in the body causes disease. Now, when you look at studies on gut microbiome, what you'll find is correlations to health outcomes. And these correlations, generally you'll see news outlet headlines and you'll see articles, and even like the scientists doing the study will claim that certain gut strains of gut bacteria cause certain health outcomes and things like that. Or at least that's what a lot of average people, lay people who don't understand science will think. But the fact is, these are correlations, okay? Obviously, gut bacteria that is found in somebody who eats a healthy diet is going to be correlated to better health outcomes than gut bacteria that is found in the intestine of somebody eating a junk food diet and has poor health outcomes, okay? This is healthy user bias, okay? Healthy user bias is when we compare, like let's say you have red meat eaters who eat a junk food diet and you compare them to vegans, okay? And then you claim red meat causes heart disease because of the vegan diet group has better health outcomes, but the junk food diet people who include red meat in their diet have worse health outcomes than the vegans. The red meat is not the factor. It just so happens that people who eat the most red meat tend to also eat the most junk food in our society because they're told that red meat's unhealthy. The same thing is happening in gut microbiome research, where we see people who have a lot of broccoli eating gut bacteria, salad eating gut bacteria, and just like whole grain eating gut bacteria. The kind of gut bacteria that's associated with someone who's eating a healthy diet is going to also correlate with greater health outcomes. But it has nothing to do with the bacteria. It's not the probiotics in the gut. It's not the gut microbiome that's causing this. The gut microbiome is the way it is because it's digesting the food you're eating, but it's the actual food you're eating that is dictating the health outcomes. And even that is shaky, okay? Just because somebody's eating broccoli and they have better health outcomes does not mean that the broccoli itself is magical in what's causing it. People who eat the most plant foods in their diet, especially things like broccoli and whole grains, and we're talking like brown rice, beans and shit like that. Junk food people don't eat those things. So people who eat the most whole plant foods in their diet, typically they're also avoiding trans fats, they're avoiding refined carbs, refined sugar, because no one's going to spend, a couple like $10 extra a day or something on a pound of vegetables unless their intent is to be healthy. People don't invest in healthy food unless they're trying to be healthy. So what I'm saying, and that's healthy user bias. It's the intention to be healthy. It's not the broccoli, and It's not the broccoli-eating gut bacteria that's causing health outcomes. It's the fact that these people are trying to be healthy, so they're eating healthy foods and avoiding junk foods, so they have a lot of plant food eating bacteria in their gut, and they have an absence of junk food eating bacteria in their gut because they avoid junk food, because their intention is to be healthy. And they get healthy, they get really, really good health outcomes, low rates of diseases and stuff, not because of the gut bacteria, but because their intent is to be healthy, and they eat healthy food. That healthy food creates healthy gut bacteria, and that healthy gut bacteria is associated with better health outcomes. So hopefully that makes sense. I know it might sound a little bit complicated, but if it does, go on Wikipedia, look at healthy user bias and unhealthy user bias, and really try to understand what that is. Because that will let you know that the vast majority that'll help you see through a lot of this nonsense that these people use to push diets that a lot of times harm people and don't really help very much. Especially things like supplements. Like, people think that they can take polyphenols from broccoli and then prevent cancer with it, or grapeseed extract, or even resveratrol, which has now been shown to actually potentially cause negative health outcomes, like increased risks of cancer and things. People used to advocate resveratrol as a hermetic antioxidant or whatever. They now are advocating against it because there's research showing pretty significantly that it might contribute to cancer growth if you take it as a supplement. Just like beta-carotene was actually shown to increase risk of lung cancer by a significant degree. Point that I'm trying to make is healthy user bias and this over-fantasization about these molecular pathways and these types of very nuanced aspects of health tends to actually take us farther away from health. Anyway, on a practical level, what do you need to know? So we don't really have a lot of intervention trials showing much. I've seen a study that suggests there might be a benefit for irritable bowel syndrome if somebody was to take a certain strain of a probiotic, but the evidence is not very significant. And looking at anecdotes on irritable bowel syndrome Reddit boards and stuff like that, and the groups that I'm a part of as well, people don't get success from taking that. And then in regards to mental health, I tried for a long time a very potent antibiotic for boosting my mood and stuff. And I tried for IBS, and I tried for all the other health problems I used to have that I solved with just changing my diet. And most people don't see success with probiotics. Most people, it's one of the biggest things that people are I don't really notice anything, but I feel healthier, I think. It's yeah, it's probably placebo. I might be wrong, so if I'm wrong, please share your intervention trial with me so I'm aware of it. However, there actually, as far as I'm aware, I think there's 3 rat studies done where they actually do a fecal matter transplant. They basically take shit out of one rat's colon with autism. There was one. And then they put the autistic rat's shit in a healthy rat's colon. And then they took a healthy rat's shit out of their colon and put it in an autistic rat's colon. And they found that they can induce autism in rats just by changing out their shit, their fecal matter in their colon. But to me, that just sounds very shaky and fishy. And I'm wondering why we haven't really seen any significant results in humans, intervention trials using probiotics. And I think maybe fecal matter transplants is much different than, probiotic supplements. I don't think it's the same thing. And also it's a rat study. And it's very possible that these studies were rigged in order to sell supplements or something, but fecal matter transplants might have some medical utility. I believe I know of a couple of fields of gastroenterology or whatever, where they actually, gastroenterology, I'm probably saying that wrong, But there's certain fields of medicine where they use fecal matter transplants in order to remedy certain illnesses, but it doesn't always work. So, yeah, from a scientific perspective, anybody who is pushing probiotics as something significant, especially that Christopher Walker guy, that guy needs to get off my advertisement roll or whatever. I need to find a way to, like, get him out of there, because every time I open up a video, I hear about his toxic poop and his supplement you need to remove the 20 pounds of toxic poop he says is in your body. Look, man, those people are freaking scammers, and I don't even feel like you need to know the science behind this stuff to understand, to catch a lot of that. Like, Christopher Walker's sales tactics are blatantly obvious. But the probiotic thing is kind of like, they try to make it sound really scientifically valid, and it's like, this is the gut microbiome, take a ubiome test or whatever, you know, discover your, like, whatever. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. It's such a brand new field of nutrition science, and nutrition science in general is so new, and it's what we call a soft science, where basically you can't really prove facts. All you can do is gather evidence. It's a very complicated thing. There's millions and trillions of different strains and also different variables that affect the strains. We don't know what these bacteria do. We are just making correlations. So, essentially, any kind of health problem you might have that people think probiotics can help, you probably get way better results doing an elimination diet. That's what I did. I had irritable bowel syndrome, and I talk about this all the time. In like from 2012 until 2015, when I just removed certain plant foods from my diet and removed all my fucking symptoms, I had irritable bowel syndrome. I had psoriasis, all these like autoimmune issues and things. And when I went vegan, it was at its worst. And all I did was remove whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. These things that people tell you need for your microbiome. And all my symptoms went away. I spent thousands of dollars a year on probiotics, enzyme supplements, and all that. None of that shit helped. Probiotic supplements, at manufacturing, they're supposed to have a certain amount of live probiotics, and they certify a billion, 20 billion probiotics per serving at the time of manufacturing. I mean, they could easily be lying to you, first of all. Second of all, how much of those probiotics actually survive the shipping? And then when it gets to the store, how do you know that they don't die in the handling of the store? How do you know that the teenagers, nothing wrong with them, but the teenagers that are stocking the shelves and are handling the boxes and packages, they're probably not refrigerating a lot of this stuff in the majority of the shipping and handling of these products. So these products could very well be completely dead. The probiotics might have had live strains at one point, but they're probably dead by the time they get on store shelves. So, I've tried probiotics back and forth and over again, spent a lot of money on them. At one time, I thought that they were kind of helping me digest food, but I think it's actually just after like 2 years on a carnivore diet, I probably killed off whatever bad bacteria was in my gut, and I was able to just eat foods fine after that. I didn't even need probiotics. But yeah, I don't think they have utility in things like Candida at all. I don't think that they have utility in SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or anything like that. I'll tell you what can grow bacteria in your intestine is prebiotics, but the problem with that is that there's no causal link between gut bacteria and health outcomes anyway. So taking prebiotics or probiotics or Matt Monarch's new fucking scam, postbiotics, fucking idiot. Seriously. None of that shit, like, why are you intending to produce more bacteria in your intestine when we don't have any studies proving that it's actually going to produce a certain health outcome? We just have correlations and shit. It makes no sense at all to me. And again, I might just be barking up the wrong tree. If there's actual intervention trials, you guys, on these probiotic supplements or certain strains or whatever you have, please put them in the freaking comments. But if you're going to be one of these fools that's just like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, Mark Hyman said blah, 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 or whatever, Joel Furman, just go away if you don't have studies. Because, like, this is very should be obvious and common sense, but you have all these like health professionals that just preach the role of the gut microbiome like it's gospel. These people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. It's really sad. So what else? So I mean, I spent a shit ton of money on probiotics, never really got anywhere. I used to take chicory root and consume prebiotic fiber, you know, and ever since Dave Asprey started to talk about that, like in his book Superhuman, and then he created a prebiotic supplement. And side note, he's actually been kicked out of the company completely. He's not even executive chief or anything like that. He's been kicked out somehow. I don't know why. He hasn't released a public statement. Anyway, he started like trying to hype up like prebiotic supplements and shit. And that was when I was like, all right, I'm done with the supplement salesman nonsense. You take these, spend $50 on like 20 servings of prebiotics. All that's going to happen is you're going to fart, you're going to get bloated and shit. And that's a waste of money. You know, you're going to take a 5-day full, you know, probiotic cycle. And then you're like, oh, I don't really know if it helped, but it said it did, so, you know. So there's that. Now here's what I will say. If you eat probiotic foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, and stuff like that, and you eat that with your food, that can improve your digestion, but it's not what people think, okay? I had some guy, a really badass guy. He's like, you know, a carnivore diet type guy like me. He's been doing jiu-jitsu and probiotics just like me. And, sorry, did I say probiotics? I hope I didn't say that. He's been doing carnivore diet and jiu-jitsu and powerlifting. That's what I meant to say. What the fuck? And he's been doing it for a long time, right? And he's really good. He's much better at jiu-jitsu and powerlifting than I am. And this guy said that he eats kimchi and fermented foods on the side of his meat because he says that it relieves bloating and helps with his digestion. Now, this guy doesn't seem to be as familiar with the scientific evidence as me, and has that whole, like, if it works for you, then good for you type of attitude, which is not really complete. It's kind of lazy, but it's also more accurate than the science by its own self. So anecdotes are very valuable, but the problem is if you just use anecdotes, you're like, oh, the kimchi's helping, therefore probiotics are good. No. The thing about food, probiotic food, is that when it's fermenting, like in a jar or whatever, it produces lactic acid, and it creates a high level of acidity. Kind of like when you take apple cider vinegar, okay, around your food timing, and if you take just enough, just a little bit, what happens is the acidity that's produced from these fermented foods actually increase your stomach acid. So if you normally have bloating and digestive problems, a probiotic supplement is not going to help because it's not the probiotics that help with digestion. But eating fermented foods can help because they boost the acidity of your stomach, which is fundamentally, vitally, essentially, catastrophically important for digestion and producing all the digestive fluids and the enzymes and things later down the digestive tract that you need to fully digest your food. So, fermented foods are a good thing, and there's a reason why they've been used for, you know, hundreds of years, probably thousands of years. Side note, the original fermented food was probably fermented plant matter out of herbivorous animals' colon. If you read the book, either Weston Price, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, or the book Nourishing Diets by Sally Follen, that's a lot easier to read, she talks about the Native Americans having a colon eating contest out of the buffalo, where they sit around the buffalo and just feast on the colon of the buffalo. The reason why, so that is fermented foods and probably where it all came from. And you know, we have like high meat, like fermented meat and shit like that. But when these foods ferment like that, it creates a high level of acidity, and then you consume the acidic fermented food like kimchi, sauerkraut, these pickles, whatever. You know, and you notice now they use vinegar to make kind of like unfermented pickles or whatever. it'll probably do the same thing. The vinegar or the lactic acid inside that's produced, that shit is going to boost your stomach acid, help you digest food. But the probiotic bacteria, we don't know what the fuck's going on with that. If anything, it's probably going to act, in my opinion, probably like a low-level bacterial type of infection that probably boosts your immune system, like a hormetic response type of thing, probably. Like a hormetic response. Because for me, my whole approach to viruses and bacteria and things like that, depending on what they are, but for most of them, is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I'm a big fan of hormesis. I find it's the most accurate theory to explain a whole lot of these things. So I believe when you consume fermented foods, the freaking acidity that's produced in the liquid boosts your freaking digestion through the stomach acid. Freaking alkaline vegans alkalizing their stomach, drinking alkaline water like a bunch of fools. And then probably the probiotic bacteria might help to prime your immune system to respond better when it's encountering some more severe, like, staph or, shit like that. So, like staph infection or strep throat or whatever. So, if you want probiotics, and even if you believe in probiotics, look, most people will probably find they feel really good when they eat fermented foods. I like freaking kimchi, sauerkraut, and I feel really, really good, like a good buzz feeling, if I drink, not kefir, sorry, god damn it, what is the probiotic tea? Kombucha. If I drink really good kombucha, really bubbly, really potent, if I drink a good kombucha, along with like some tea, after my meal, like generally I'll eat a good meal, then I would have like yerba mate, because it's hot, and it's kind of like good for digestion, and it's a lot less liquid. Then I'd wash the hot meal with the hot tea down with the cold fermented kombucha. And that just makes my digestion feel amazing, makes me feel buzzed, and it would help me sleep. Mind you, I haven't had a fermented food in years. I haven't had kombucha in years, except for when my coworker kind of like hustled me into drinking a kombucha that she was offering me at work, which kind of just gave me like a blood sugar drop, I felt. But anyway, yeah, so I mean, and I haven't, like, but when I did drink kombucha and I ate fermented foods, I felt a good boost. But probiotic supplements, not really. So yeah, scientifically speaking, no evidence, okay? A bunch of nonsense, okay? Eating plant foods to boost gut bacteria, why the fuck would you do that when we don't have any causal evidence for the health outcomes? We just know people who eat the most fruits and vegetables have the highest health outcomes. So maybe base your diet on red meat, 1 gram per pound of lean mass from like freaking beef, then eat as much vegetables as you'd like, on the side, and then fruits like berries and stuff like that, and then fermented foods on top of it. Whole grains, I'd say, is a foolish kind of proposition. And beyond that, don't worry about it. I just highly, like, I used to be the guy that just like was really fascinated with all these things. But the more that I learn about like science and nutrition science specifically, and these products and all these health things, health gimmicks, health fads, whatever you want to call them, the more I learn about it, the more I realize how much of this shit is over-analyzed and and people are infatuated with it, and a lot of it is just nonsense. So, but with that being said, I'm glad that, if you listen to this whole video, you probably just heard the most real talk on probiotics you'll hear from pretty much anybody. Okay, and I think the big thing that opened my eyes was when I learned about healthy user bias. Okay, and when I learned correlation versus causation and how studies are conducted, when I actually learned about science. Even people who have degrees in medicine or in science and stuff, a lot of them for some reason can't see this either. It's just really weird. So yeah, look, if you want to eat fermented foods, do it. Give it a try. If you want to try probiotics, by all means do it, but I'm telling you right now, you're going to be wasting a shit ton of money. Make your own kimchi, maybe go to like my Natural Grocers has raw fermented foods, which is cool. but making your own is good. Or get you a female friend that actually does it, which is a good idea. That lived on a farm or something, which is a really good idea. Don't sweat it. Eat meat, eat fruit. Eat non-starchy vegetables if you'd like. Eat some tubers. And then if you can tolerate it, eat the whole grains and stuff. Eat your fermented foods. If you really want to waste money on probiotics, sure. But I'm telling you, outside of the basic nutritional advice and tonic herbs and exercise, positive mindset, stuff like that, having purpose in life, you really don't need to worry a lot about all this shit. Like getting lutein in your diet, getting, the polyphenols in, what else? Like freaking curcumin and all this other stuff. Like, look into it, be fascinated by it, but be extremely skeptical, guys. Anyway, thank you very much for the question. The fact that you actually asked me that question shows me that maybe you're a bit skeptical, but this is my opinion on this, is not the general consensus, because most people, they see all these correlations and they're like, oh yeah, it is good, blah blah blah. Like, people just parrot all the shit that they freaking hear. So anyway, you guys want to hear more ranting about that nonsense? Let me know. If you have any more questions, post them down below and I'll make more videos, and I'll talk to y'all next time.